In this video, you will learn how to identify all of the basic types of pronouns. Here is an image of the mind map that you will be using to take notes while you watch the video. We're going to start with personal pronouns, primarily because these are the pronouns that most of you are probably already familiar with. Personal pronouns are the ones that most likely come to mind when you think of pronouns. Personal pronouns can take either singular or plural forms. Personal pronouns can also be in first, second, or third person. The first person singular forms are I and me. The second person singular form is you. And the third person singular forms are he, she, it, him, and her. The first person plural forms are we and us. Second person is also you. And third person is they and them. So if we were to write a few example sentences, we might have something like, I gave him a hug. So I would have the first person singular I, and I would have the third person singular him. Indefinite pronouns are also incredibly common, but you are probably not as familiar with thinking of these as pronouns. Indefinite pronouns refer to nouns that may not specifically be named. So while personal pronouns have direct antecedents, indefinite pronouns do not. They often refer to somebody or something that we can't imagine, we're not sure who it is, often groups of people. The plural forms are pretty simple. For the plural forms, we have both, few, many, and several. We also have quite a few singular words. Much, each, either, and neither, and all the others. We have other, another, each, other, and one another. Then comes my favorite part. We have any, every, no, and some, but we have to add this to buddy, one, or thing. So note that these words by themselves aren't necessarily going to be indefinite pronouns. It's that when we add them together, so anybody, anyone, anything, everybody, everyone, everything, nobody, no one, nothing, somebody, someone, something. The word one is also a singular indefinite pronoun. Some example sentences. Everyone likes pizza. Everyone being a singular indefinite pronoun. Another example, none of the ice has melted. None is an example of an indefinite pronoun that can be either singular or plural, depending on the sentence. None, all, some, and any, most, more. To determine the number of these pronouns, you have to look at the sentence and figure out what they are referring to. More on that in another tutorial. Now we have the demonstrative, interrogative, and relative, which I have grouped together because many of the words themselves overlap. It's all about how the word is functioning in the sentence that tells us which type of pronoun it is. Beginning with demonstrative, they demonstrate, they point out nouns or pronouns. The examples are this, that, these, and those. An example sentence: this is my cousin. This is actually pointing out cousin. With demonstrative, you almost have to imagine that two people are talking and somebody's actively pointing at something, because it's the act of pointing it out that the pronoun is doing. Interrogative pronouns are pretty straightforward. The interrogative pronouns introduce questions. Who, whom, which, what, and whose. So, very simple sentences. What is your address? What beginning the question. Another one, whose is the red truck outside? And finally, relative pronouns, which are probably the most complicated. Don't get too hung up on understanding how to use them. I just want you to know that they exist for right now. The relative pronouns introduce adjective clauses, which I'll explain in a moment. The relative pronouns are that, which, who, whom, and whose. So the way relative pronouns work is that they're going to introduce an adjective clause within a sentence. So here's an example. The dog that you trained is very well behaved. That you trained is the adjective clause. It has a subject and a verb, which is what makes it a clause. The dog is very well behaved. That is an independent clause on its own. That you trained is an adjective clause because it tells me which dog, and that is a relative pronoun because it introduces the relative or adjective clause. Reflexive and intensive pronouns use the same words, but they do slightly different things. So first, let me give you the actual pronouns. The singular reflexive or intensive pronouns are myself, yourself, itself, himself, and herself. The plural are ourselves, yourselves, and themselves. The reflexive pronoun versions, when these words are functioning as reflexive pronouns, they are going to refer to the subject of the sentence, and they are going to function as a complement or as an object. So an example would be, Robert let himself take a study break. So in this sentence, himself is a reflexive pronoun that refers to Robert, and functions as the direct object. Intensive pronouns, all they really do is emphasize the antecedent. They have no grammatical function in the sentence. You can take the word out and it's not going to change the meaning of the sentence or the way the sentence works. So an example would be Joe painted the mural himself. Here, himself is an intensive pronoun. Joe painted the mural. It refers to Joe. However, I can take it out, Joe painted the mural, and it doesn't change the grammatical meaning of the sentence. It doesn't function as an object or a subject. The possessive pronouns all show ownership. Just like personal pronouns, possessive pronouns have singular, first, second, third, and plural, first, second, third. The singular forms for first person, singular form is mine, second person is yours, third person is his, hers, or its. With plural first person, we have ours, we again have yours, and then we have theirs. So, an example sentence: the blue jacket is mine. Mine being the possessive pronoun. It's showing ownership as well as standing in for the jacket and me, my jacket. The blue jacket is my jacket. Another example: ours is the black car next to yours. In this sentence, ours stands in for car, yours stands in for car, and both show ownership of their respective antecedents. And now you should pause the video and do this practice. Underline all the pronouns in the following sentences and identify the type of pronoun. Watch for pronouns that are actually functioning as adjectives and do not underline these. I will talk more about that later, but be careful, especially with the possessive pronouns, that you're not underlining pronouns that are actually modifying something. So hit pause, do the questions, and then resume the video because I'm going to go over the answers with you. Number 1, all is an indefinite pronoun. My is functioning as an adjective because it's describing family, so I'm not going to mark that one. Few is an indefinite pronoun. Them is a personal pronoun. And I is a personal pronoun. Last summer, several of my cousins and I stayed at a rustic camp in the Rocky Mountains, which are not far from our hometown. So, several is an indefinite pronoun. I, personal. Which, relative. And then our is modifying hometown, so again, I'm not going to mark that as a pronoun. Number 3, at camp we learned how to build a campfire and how to keep it going ourselves. Our first pronoun is the we, and it's a personal pronoun. It is also a personal pronoun, and ourselves is an intensive pronoun. Number 4, one of our counselors showed those who were interested how to cook themselves simple meals. Quite a few in here. One is an indefinite pronoun. Those is a demonstrative pronoun. Who is a relative pronoun. Themselves is a reflexive pronoun. And finally, number 5, Anyone who wants to can sleep outside tonight. Anyone is an indefinite pronoun who is a relative pronoun. If you had difficulty with this, know that a lot of it is about familiarity and practice. So do as much practice as you think you need until you start being able to identify pronouns really quickly and easily.